loop, 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 London, 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 London.
Hello, Bloop listeners, Bloop fam, and welcome to the Urban Soundscapes show with me, Refreya. Happy Tuesday. I'm here in the studio today with a great guest, Sonus, so can't wait to get into a chat with him momentarily.
You're now listening to Bloop London.
So, a very, very warm welcome to you, Sonus.
Thank you so much, Freya.
This is your mic.
This is my mic.
Yeah. So, and a big shout out to anyone who's tuned in live joining us. So yeah, welcome to the studio. I believe you've been here once before. Is that right?
Yeah, once before, like a year ago. It's pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's a cute and cozy little space here, I think. So to kick things off, I always like to start by asking guests to kind of introduce themselves if someone isn't already aware of you. You're from Sweden originally. Do you want to just give people your short intro of who you are? Sonus?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Carl. My artist name is Sonus. I've been in the UK for about 7 years and been actively playing as a DJ for more or less like the two last years. Come from a bit of a musical background, so growing up I went a lot through musical schools and spent a lot of time with more acoustic music and vocal singing and that kind of stuff. Spent quite a bit in the studio back then as well, but more with acoustic music. And I guess just more recently in my life I've really come to embrace electronic music and wanted to make it a very permanent part of my life. And that's what I'm doing.
And in your household, I remember reading in some information you sent across to me that you said you grew up in a really musical household. So your parents, are they big selectors of music, into sort of jazz, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's always been a kind of recurring theme growing up. So my dad's although he's not a full-time musician, he spent a lot of time with piano, guitar, jamming. When we had family dinners and friends over, it always turned into like a big jam session, and all our family friends would bring their guitars, and we just jam out into the late hours, and that kind of sparked my interest for more improvisational music, I guess. And when I mix, I kind of try and think of music in that way too. It's non-linear to me, I want to try and create something new and unexpected every time. So the less prepared and less planned it is, and the more, I guess, organic it is, the more fun it feels to me.
Yeah, I actually love that, and I love that you talked about that, and I think that really stood out to me when I started listening to some of your mixes. I don't know how I came across you last year. It's something to do with like being in the London scene. I think maybe I came across like something on Instagram of you, started listening to some of your sets, and I was really, really blown away by the genre fusing, because I'm a really big fan of that as well. I think it's kind of really adds to your musicality as a DJ. And I remember you said that you were really inspired originally by like Rampu and Mira sort of back in the day, quite a few years ago, and obviously your sound has changed a fair bit now, but I think we're really aligned on that. So I'm really excited to have you here on the show today.
Thank you.
I'm quite honored that you're joining me here in the booth. I'm really excited to hear what you're going to be playing. What led to the change from kind of more, I guess you could call that organic house, right? And what's led to the more kind of groovy, faster BPMs for you?
As you said, Rampu has been a big inspiration to me. I think he's one of the first artists that I saw live that really sparked my interest for the idea of like a live set and just immersing yourself for 3 or 4 hours on a journey. Even though he's not a DJ and more of a live act, I think it's kind of the same idea of trying to tell a story and kind of bring people into the journey that you're taking them on. So I guess I just started there, but given my background of having listened to a lot of different music, I think that also feeds into how I enjoy and dig music. So I don't tend to stay in one place for too long, and maybe I will settle at some point. But I guess I just like exploring new things, and I guess part of it is maybe that a lot of the music I played when I was younger, like blues and jazz and stuff, it has a lot of kind of beat and a lot of groove to it. And I guess I just started to want to try and fusion that kind of rhythmic background I have a bit to the kind of music that I'm playing, and kind of started exploring that space more. So these days I play a bit more minimal house, a bit more groovy minimal house, some tech house as well, more on the minimal side of tech house, but tech house too.
But would you say that when you're playing in a club, your selections are still fairly broad? You sort of bring things in from different genres at different times?
I still do, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. And today I'm not really playing that vibe at all. I actually was had no idea what I was going to play today until I kind of thought about it a bit on the way in, and I wanted to do something a little bit more dreamy, and still with a bit of rhythm and drive, but a bit more dreamy and hypnotic.
Love that. Yeah, we're here for the dreamy vibes here on the Urban Soundscape show. We love that here. And so you've come from Sweden. When did you move to London?
So I moved here in 2015.
Okay, me too actually. Came to the city at that time. Okay,
Cool.
so it's been almost
So like
almost
7,
a
8 years.
decade. Yeah.
8 years.
And then I remember you said that you were going to Ibiza a lot in like kind of the late 2000 teens, whatever, 2015, 2020, that time frame. And that was quite an inspiring time for you.
I guess after that the first time I heard Rampua, which was probably like 2014, something like that, 15 maybe. That sparked my interest for kind of the craft and the art of DJing and mixing, and I started listening a lot to sets, and I had a lot of friends that were in Ibiza, but I had never really spent that much time going there, so I started visiting them a bit more, going to a lot of parties there, going to the big events, but also to a lot of smaller parties, and kind of, I guess, made mixing and DJing kind of part of the way I socialized and hung out with people, and we started organizing quite a lot of parties and stuff in Ibiza with our friends that that really brought me close to the music, and I guess that's kind of how I started doing it myself. I realized that was a forum for me to share my music with friends, which then eventually turned out to becoming something I do more on a regular basis.
So it's really evolved really organically for you then, like kind of getting into the music scene and collecting music, and now you're gigging more and more in London, and you're now starting a duo project with your friend Axel, right? That's
Exactly.
a brand new thing. Yeah.
So I have a good friend, Axel. We started both pretty much. Well, Axel's been producing for a lot longer than me in the electronic space. But we started producing together, and given I spent more time mixing and he spent a lot more time in the studio than I do, we figured it was an interesting opportunity to kind of draw on each other's strengths. So I spend a lot of time learning from him in the studio, and getting inspired by the stuff he's doing, and equally he spends time with me mixing. And what we've decided to do is create this project where we're producing a lot together. So I think we've been working on like 10, 20 tracks together, and I probably have 10 or 20 tracks that I'm kind of working on my own.
Wow, okay, that's a pretty hefty load.
Still feel like there's a lot of work to do before I'm 100% ready to release them, but at the same time I want to get them out there. So I think 2022 is the year that we really want to get our music to the world, and start releasing. But yeah, so we're spending a lot of time in the studio. I'm spending more time in the studio now that I've been spending mixing, actually. Last year I spent a lot of time playing, probably two times at least a week, and this year I'm probably playing a bit less, like once a week at the most.
I think
to find more time in the studio.
Yeah, it's really a balance, isn't it? And you kind of it's very hard to give your energy to all the things at the same time, and I think you need to bring quite a different approach to being like playing in the dance floor versus being in the studio. It's like very, very long hours and lots of like concentration. Finding the inspiration, but that's really exciting, and that's a lot of tracks, like 10 20 for each of you. Like I'm really excited to see. Have you?
But that's how I like. What I like about music is it being a bit raw and a bit organic. So it's pretty quick for me to come up with the base idea of a track and outline, and then where the time really gets tricky is in kind of perfecting and making it in my mind ready. And sometimes you can't be too much of a perfectionist and spend all your time just going over and over stuff and revisiting stuff. And sometimes you just have to release them. But we try to make music that's not overproduced and kind of not too over-engineered, I guess, and stuff that you can really hear that it has a natural groove and kind of a natural vibe to it.
And you're using Ableton with your stuff. Any go-to plugins that you love that people things like any pro tips for any producers listening to the show?
I guess one of the plugins I'm using the very most at the moment is DS Tantra 2.
So
it's
making notes.
It's a step sequencer and kind of multi-effects plugin, which just you can do really cool rhythmic stuff with and warp sounds that appear very elementary and kind of boring, and you can turn them into really, you know, incredible things that become the core groove or kind of driving element of your track. So I use that that a lot, and yeah, I guess Pro Q kind of just for EQ is a go-to as well.
Yeah.
Just makes it really easy to really bring out your sound in the way you want to.
And would you say that people can expect to hear some unusual sort of rhythms in your track? Because I remember we've spoken about this a few times of like trying to find more interesting music,
Yeah.
interesting rhythms. They've obviously got the jazz background there as well.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's really hard to say because when I sit down in the studio, it's really organic. So I never think about, okay, I'm gonna create this kind of track or I'm gonna do this. I sit down and I listen to some different percussion samples or activate a drum machine and just start grooving a bit with a beat. I kind of find something that I think, you know, feels like the vibe I'm in at the moment, and then typically build a bass line from there. And it's just a pure lottery every time where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it comes from and which influences it's from. So I'm not actively thinking, you know, this is bluesy or this is jazzy. But it kind of usually develops from something that I can later go back and be like, okay, that's coming from this side of me.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it's coming from this background of music or from liking this kind of sound, right? So it's really hard to tell, but it just evolves. And, and that's the cool thing, because then you kind of sometimes come up with things that seem hard to box in, but it's kind of a new sound. And that's what I really want to achieve and what I want to perfect, my ability to bring something new to the table.
Absolutely, yeah, something that's a
I
bit more
guess.
like original and fresh, because I mean, I think I read a statistic recently saying it was like 100,000 tracks are being added to Beatport maybe every day, every week. I don't know, there's a lot of music coming out, and I think one of the biggest things that you want as a producer or as a DJ is to kind of not sound generic. And I would say, you know, from listening to your sets, like that, I really think you have like a really great original sound already. So I'm really excited to hear your productions when they come out later in the year. One quick wildcard question I wanted to ask you. So obviously you're working alongside doing your production and your DJing. You've also got like a full-time profession as well. Work-life balance. Can I ask you a little bit about that? How's that?
Yeah, I tend not to talk so much about my work life.
But do you sleep or do you ever have time?
I have a job too to support my life. And yeah, after I graduated from music school when I was like 17 or 18 or something like that, I went to business school and went into business, and I've been doing that, you know, since. And music has kind of been my parallel side project and passion, which has just grown and grown and grown over the years until it's kind of eaten into my my overall life, I guess, a bit more.
Yeah.
So it's busy today. I spend a lot of time trying to figure out, you know, how to find time. But I guess the more you do that, the better you get at being smart with your time, I guess. And the older you get, the more you learn, you know, where you really need to prioritize and where you need to spend time. And
it all comes down to prioritization.
In your life as well, right? So you're not just a machine spending all your time.
I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to ask you. Like, how do you have the time to be inspired, I guess? But you take trips, right? And you travel around, you see things in the world. I guess that is what would you say brings your biggest inspiration for your music?
My biggest inspiration
like,
for my
as in,
music.
do you get revived from being on
where
the
I
dance
find
floor? Where do you get inspiration from?
I don't think I would, I mean, this sounds basic, but I don't think I would ever be able to create the electronic music I create today if I hadn't spent a lot of time in raves and on dance floors.
For sure, yeah.
Because when you're making a track, or even when you're mixing, you kind of, you know the feeling that you're creating and how that felt when you were in the room having that very special moment, and like how it felt to you. And when you're recreating it, if you've experienced it yourself before, it's a lot easier than kind of, you know, coming from, you know, blank space. So I guess I've been inspired a lot by just great artists and having great musical experiences. But then I also really get the most inspired from nature, I think, and just kind of secluding myself a bit from society, I think, and like getting a bit of space from all that.
Yeah.
And that's when I can create. So I experience and kind of build inspiration, I guess, on the dance floor, and then, you know, getting away from all of that and just clearing my mind, you know, somewhere quiet and close to nature, I think, is where, you know, I'm able to create.
Yeah,
and
that's
draw on that.
okay. And you go inside, and then you like find what you want to bring out to the world. No, that's really beautiful. All right, anything else you want to tell listeners about what you've got planned this year? You've obviously got some releases coming out. Any shows coming up that you want to shout out, or anything else?
Yeah, I have a few exciting ones actually. I have one I'm very excited about in May at Love Studios, which maybe I don't know if I should talk about it actually.
Okay. Maybe like just keep tabs on watch this space. Follow him on social media. I don't know. Yeah, if you've been like told, you can share who you're playing alongside and stuff. But like, what's the date of the show? You can probably tell people that.
It's the 13th of May. I have a
13th
bunch
of
of
May.
gigs in between that, but that's the one we're really I'm really looking forward to. It's a bigger one. And then just a lot of time in the studio, and I really hope to be able to bring my music to the world this year.
Yeah,
and together with my friend Axel as well. So
yeah, and the project we got Axel, that's called Untold, right?
Untold.
Yeah, missing the O. And what's your just drop your Insta handle or SoundCloud and stuff so people can find you as well.
Sonus _ music, or sonus.machina on SoundCloud.
Okie doke. And you'll be able to find him also on my Instagram, Refreya DJ. I will be sharing the track IDs after the show. So yeah, get locked for the next 45 minutes, guys. We'll be live here in the studio until 8 p.m. Thanks so much, Sonus, for being here on the show with us.
Awesome. Thanks, Freya.
have been listening to the Urban Soundscapes show here on Bloop Radio London with me, Refreya, and today's guest, Sonus, who has played an amazing last 45 minutes guest mix. So huge shout out to Sonus. Go and check him out on SoundCloud, Sonus Machina, and on his Instagram as well. And as always, track IDs will be up on Instagram after the show. Thanks, guys.